Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video on this channel. We're going to do some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta going forward. Maybe look at a few other things like the VIX and those yields, maybe even gold today. But I just wanted to give a big thumbs up and a pat on the back to the people out there who are subscribed and you find this info helpful, because we were pointing out a lot of this stuff live, and this was a great trade setup that I actually took. You guys know I don't take many day trades, but this one was too good to pass up. And so I see this happening right in here, and this is what we're going to learn about as we go into some technical analysis with the SPY. Let's get into it. So when we were live this morning, we were just pointing out the fact that we were getting some hipfire moves up. We're still using that bottom side of the monthly on the SPY, the monthly expected move that is for the whole month of April. We're outside of that right now, so we do have that 68% chance to land up a little bit higher here. But we just focused on this live, right? We were just saying, hey, if this starts to curl over on this MACD, you're in negative territory. You're most likely going to go to that daily expected move, which is right around the weekly expected move. That daily expected move right around this level right here, we dink on it to the T. I got out just a little bit before that, but it was great profit. You can make 100% on a lot of these moves. You can make 100% on your trade. So then we were stating, and we posted this on Patreon, that from this level, we most likely are to bounce. And guess what? We start to bounce. So I was getting messages, hey, I'm going to go short now. I'm going to go short now. I'm going to go short now. This is the exact time of the week where you do not want to be going short, because this is the most likely area where you can see a bounce. And then also the 15-minute did give you this divergence, so that should be a little bit of a lesson there, but we can go make a triple divergence because of these daily expected moves for tomorrow. So I wanted to point out the daily expected moves, 505.61 to the upside, and then we have 495.35 to the downside. And you're going to notice that it's really close to this white line that I marked right here. We're just going to delete that for now and leave that red. Okay, so we're going to leave up the expected moves for tomorrow, and the downside move for the SPY is sitting right at 495.35. What is down in this area? Something very, very important, but we could be heading down to that level, and maybe we see that divergence, but all you need to know is this is that weekly expected move, 68% chance we land in here. I'm actually leaning towards some kind of bounce tomorrow, but if this curls down, negative territory, right? Negative territory, just like the previous trade. If it turns down, negative territory, we can see that downside, but if it creates some kind of divergence, that downside might be limited. So pay attention to that going forward. Remember that weekly is still there. Maybe we want to use that as support, create some kind of double bottom. That would give us a good base to head back up. But I wanted to show you guys where this line right here, this 495.35, why it is so important and why it would make sense to go down there. We were talking about this for a few days now. All right, we were talking about this probably as of last week. We were talking about this, right? So we were pointing out when we saw this bar, hey, we could head towards that 20. Okay, so on the weekly side here, you're just noticing that weekly 20 is right in this area, and that would be a great pullback for the market. And then we have to see if we can build back up. As of right now, it looks like we are likely to get some kind of lower high, but we'll see if that changes. As of right now, we could go and test that weekly moving average, and the Qs could do the same thing. I think that they're testing it right now, so they would really break through that. But you can notice that would just take you to a daily expected move. Maybe you wick out or something like that if the SPY wants to test it. If the Qs want to test it, we saw the same things with the Qs, and they actually ripped down a little bit harder. You guys know I didn't actually trade the SPY for that trade. I actually used AMD, and I'll show you guys that trade setup. But as of right now, we were pointing out, where was that daily expected move? Well, it was right down in this area, right? It was right in between the weekly and the monthly, this yellow line and the purple line. The purple is the weekly, and the yellow is the monthly. Okay, so what we were paying attention to here, I said, if this crosses over, we get that confirmation of some downside here on the MACD in negative territory. Keep things very, very simple. Well, we see that crossover right here on the MACD. We break through this flagging that we were doing here, and we see a little sell sign. Okay, now we wanted some reasons to take a trade. Negative territory, curling down on the MACD, going below the center line on the RSI, plenty of reasons. And then you really do gravitate towards these weekly, monthly, and daily expected moves. And we gravitated right to this area, right? Live, we just circled this area when we saw this bar. Hey, this area looks like the target at this point. That's exactly what ended up happening. We take some profit when we hit these levels, right? We're trading like water. And then we see a divergence down here. Now that divergence, you see it on the 15-minute here. Now, you know I like my 30 minutes, but the divergence doesn't look very good. So it would make sense to get a little bit of a rollover, maybe get some kind of double bottom, or maybe even go down lower and test, just where that 20-week moving average is. We'll have to see what happens. A lot of Netflix earnings is probably going to affect the market going forward. So I just want you to pay attention. You are still outside of that weekly expected move, 68% chance to close back in these ranges by Friday close. So we want to get some daily ranges for tomorrow, 431.55 to the upside and 419.99 to the downside. Make sure to turn on those notifications so you can join us live every single morning. As we are watching this, we're showing trade setups, we're giving some opinions. It's very, very good. And I have to say, today we did a very good job. So thank you so much if you're subscribed, if you're part of the Patreon, or if you've taken my course and it is really helping. I love to hear the fact that that course is helping a lot of people out. So thank you for that. Now, I did want to show the shorter time frames for a lot of these stocks because we're seeing a lot of 15-minute craziness, right? We're seeing some divergence, some steep divergence here on Apple. Now, that did cross. It is, as of right now, showing red bars on the histogram. But if this can go positive, Apple can see a good move, and Apple can head right back up towards this sell-off zone. So I wonder if that's in store or if we're going to get some kind of bounce and then see that fade down. Now, the thing we were talking about live was this big move here, even with all this liquidity built up, most likely the second move won't be as big because that would cut us out of this area here. So if we kind of zoom out for a sec and go to a 2-hour and look at this, it could be some form of a double bottom, and we want to see if that 2-hour can really rise up. If that 2-hour can cross up and we get above this high, we have potential to actually get this double bottom to play out, and we could see something like this take place, get an ABC pattern upward and see Apple go up for a few days. And that would happen before earnings. Remember to keep in mind all of the earnings for a lot of these stocks because Apple could make a big move up and then earnings doesn't look good for Apple. And Apple's gotten a lot of bad news as far as their iPhone sales and everything like that, with everything to do with China. So be very careful with Apple, but you do have a good 15-minute divergence down there. Even though it is red on the histogram, we can be patient, wait for that thing to curl up into positive territory. Now, Tesla was dropping off pretty dramatically. And this is, again, a point where people are like, should I short this right now? And the real answer is I can't tell you whether or not to short something, but I can tell you that it's probably not a good idea to short something down here just because you do have this zone that we made live for you guys. It's a big zone. So if you start to break through this area, all of this is very important. So you could stop here, stop here, stop here. So you don't really want to mess with this. But right now you're touching the top of that. Right? We're touching the top of that. You have potential for a double bottom here. And the thing is, if you wanted to short this, you want to see curling over, into negative territory. This is more of an entry point than right now. Right now, you're in oversold conditions. So be very careful with that. I'm going to go into a 15-minute. It does look like it's flagging. Okay. I wanted to point that out. But we can see we were able to build up towards that center line even on the 15-minute. Now that is starting to cross over as of now. So most likely tomorrow we will see Tesla head to lower levels. It is outside of that weekly expected move. It's pretty good outside of that weekly expected move. We're trying to hold up right at that level we were paying attention to. 154.78 was what we had marked off. Now we changed that to a zone for ourselves. But will this create some kind of divergence? Because this is extended for so long, it's going to be better if you're looking for a bounce in Tesla, if this creates a divergence, to look at the 30-minute and be patient. I really think that's a good idea. We could see a dramatic drop off. This is a huge, huge move down if it makes it. And if you're trading this on the shorter time frame, 15-minute, it looks like an okay short. But we were talking about more the 2-hour scenario says maybe this thing starts to build back up. And so you have to say this RSI giving you a bunch of divergences down here for some kind of pop. But will that last? Because we're very far away from positive territory still. Even though the 15-minute looks like it could, I would be, if I see some downside, looking for a 30-minute divergence in the future down here. And that's kind of how I played. I mean, someone was asking, how do you get good with divergences? Well, you really just have to think about them happening before they even happen, right? So I see MACD behavior like this. If I see that curl over, I'm immediately starting to think, okay, where would that divergence set up? If I see that divergence set up, where would it be? Let me look for support. That's how I do it out there. But Tesla looking like it could roll over for one more move down. We just want to wait for that confirmation. You're still really close to those oversold territory, so we could see some kind of bounce pretty quick tomorrow. Unless this thing just keeps selling off. Tesla's had some very bad news going across. Now, Amazon, this is another one we were paying attention to and really trying to find out if it was going to break down. Well, what did we do in order to find out if it was going to break down? This is another one that had a great opportunity here. Really, if you just think about it more simple, 15-minute is in a negative trend. That's what we were doing live. Boom, this bar right here is my trigger. Negative territory, MACD crossing over. We have all those reasons. Now we can play the downside here, and we have weekly expected moves, but I guarantee you if you took this play, you made plenty of money in this move, and you should be taking profit at these lows. So now, the thing with Amazon is you've never created a good divergence here, so that's one thing to pay attention to. It's looking like momentum-wise, it has another drop in it to create some divergences or something like that. But as of right now, this doesn't say that the momentum's slowing down. You're really just getting flagging, big drop. Now you might just get this bounce up. It really doesn't say the momentum is slowing here. So just be cautious with Amazon. It can get that bounce if other stocks get it though. Now going into Nvidia, this is very important as Nvidia is hitting that important area, right? We were saying up in these areas early on today, we were like, okay, this crossed over on the MACD. That means we most likely are going to head towards 841.46, that very, very important level down here. Now we are getting very close to our weekly expected move, so pay attention to that tomorrow. If this drops down, you're noticing a little 15-minute divergence in the near price action. Nvidia originally was trying to make some kind of divergence right here, and then it failed to get that buying up. It failed to get that buying up. It failed, so then it dropped back down, little pop, drop back down again. Now you have that little divergence. If we can get that positivity, looks like Nvidia could roll up. So really what you want to pay attention to with Nvidia is the 2-hour able to roll up, and we talked about this live as well. I was stating, what if we come down to this level and then we base out? What if we come down to that level, actually get a full test of that 50-day moving average, and then we see a 2-hour double bottom with that divergence down there, and you have that going on right now. Now, the thing is that 50 is right there, okay? So if you're going to buy up from this area, you probably got to do it pretty early on in the morning. You don't want to start to lose this because there's not a whole bunch to hold you up for Nvidia. So this is a time where it's like Nvidia either bounces or it might crash a little bit. So be very, very cautious because if it starts getting below this, it'll be outside of its weekly expected move and that can start to escalate. So just pay attention to that going forward. Now AMD, I'm going to show you guys the trade that I took, and if I would have held that thing, it would have printed some money. Now I just was paying attention to the 15-minute on the SPY and the Qs, and I was just saying to myself, okay, well, what could I look for? Something in a negative trend. All right, so the 15-minute negative trend, it's been in a negative trend for a long time with AMD coming down, 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 and this one's hurt me to the upside. Not really hurt me. I've been risk managed with it, and then I traded something else. But as far as this goes, look at this, right when it starts to go negative, boom, we get that crossing over. So what I did was I paid attention to the 15-minute, found a little break below this low here, and I get into that move and I play it down to this area here. I actually just played it down to this low and made 77% in like an hour. So perfectly happy with that. One thing was the 30-minute looked pretty good as well, right? We just get one simple cross right here. And then boom, we see that downside come in. Now we're approaching that weekly expected move. AMD approaching that weekly expected move just tells you likelihood for a bounce here. It probably depends a lot on Netflix earnings. So that'll be interesting going on into tomorrow. You have to be a little bit worried about AMD as it keeps just screaming downside, just keeps screaming crash, right? AMD not looking like some good structure to head up from here. So this was one that I would probably stay away from, even with some divergences with this kind of look on the daily chart here, because it might be just heading for that 200. It may even head to our zone that we have marked off for a long time, which starts right around 125. So you're at 153. You could head all the way down to 125 before that actually bases out, unless people get a little excited before earnings. If we start to see buying back up, look for 183.20 to act as some resistance, and maybe this is a fluke and we're going to go get that actual head and shoulders before we break down, right? So I would be paying attention to a lot of things on AMD, but it just looks like there's better setups on other stocks in my opinion. Meta, this one we didn't pay too much attention to live, but we were just stating divergence up here, right? We've been talking about the daily divergence confirming, which means a little bit more downside. Now you're holding up right at that 50 though. You were able to buy back above that 50, so that is a good sign. Let's go into the 15-minute. Let's see if it shows us anything here. Well, if anything, we can notice one thing. It looks very similar to pretty much the stock market at this point, the SPY. Now, we do have a divergence on the MACD, but not on the RSI at the same time, which leads to some kind of bounce. Now, how high could that bounce be? This could be it. This could be all that bounce gets. We reverse back around and then we set up a divergence in the future. So I would really pay attention to this on Meta. If we start to head lower early on tomorrow, pay attention to my weekly expected moves and see if we find a little divergence that confirms when we reach that level. But it looks like we're about to curl back down into negative territory. But I just wanted to point out, this hasn't crossed over. It's kind of flat. even though we're seeing this downward move at the end of the day. I just want to point out, if this thing just flips and does not confirm, it's going to be positive. So it's a time where Meta's saying tomorrow's kind of 50-50. So you want to just be careful with that. Maybe wait for some more price action, see if it gives you some kind of divergence so that you have an actual reason to take this trade. But Meta not looking the best overall, but it's able to hold up above the 50 right now. We'll see if anything really comes to that as it is getting closer to the center line. Volatility, we were expecting that to drop off a little bit today, and it very well is. It very well is, right? We're seeing volatility drop back down, getting a lower high, but have we gotten that lower low below this level? You can see this level is pretty important right now. So you mainly, how you want to do the VIX is you want to make sure that you're seeing signals that are similar or opposite of the VIX on the SPY. That's how I do it. Now, I took a simple little UVXY play on this kind of as a hedge. It made some good money, but what I want to pay attention to now is curling up, positive territory. We could see a move here. What I really want to pay attention to, this hourly crossed over, if it does cross over. I believe it was crossed for a moment, right? It was crossed for a moment and then that faded. So as of right now, pointing down, rejecting, we could see that go negative if we get some good news tomorrow. But if we see an upward move, that could be some selling, right? We could see some selling in the overall market if we get up towards 20. But what if that creates a triple divergence, right? What if that creates the triple divergence on the RSI, right? So we want to pay attention to anything like that. If we're going to see this escalate, it's not going to confirm any divergences, right? So if we see a divergence, we're going to be posting that. But we posted this to Patreon, and it overall looked pretty good. So volatility, the other thing we need to point out here is just the daily scale. We are still holding above the 200. Now you are making a lower high at this point, so we have to pay attention to that. What if we start to lose some stuff here and we curl over on this daily MACD? Well, we could, reverse down, come and fill this gap all the way towards 13 and then see that turn back up. But your crash indication, someone was pointing it out, look how close that 50 is to crossing that 200. So you're in a point in time where that crash really could happen, like tomorrow, because this is so close together. We're above the 200, right? We're above the 200. We're in positive territory. We're getting green bars. We had a little pullback. Now we're testing that 5. What if that just starts to rip? It definitely could happen. So we're going to pay attention to any upside for the VIX, which means downside for the market, but mainly paying attention to if there's some kind of divergence up here to hint like, hey, this isn't the moment. That's what we'll be paying attention to here. Now, one thing that was very interesting, TLT actually catching a bid today. Very interesting. Those bond auctions have not been very good for TLT, but we're noticing it's catching a bid down here. Now, one thing about TLT was the 10-year showing some weakness up here, losing that 5 finally. And if you just pulled up a 2-hour, which is something we were kind of looking at, you see the divergence up here. Now that's starting to drop off. And so this is looking like we need to take a breather on the 10-year yield, and we're going to see TLT make an upward move. Maybe the 10-year actually comes down to this very important point that we found some support from last time and get some kind of head and shoulders, or the next big move up. We'll have to pay attention to that. I did want to go over Bitcoin for a moment here. So we're going to switch over to Bitcoin for just a second, because some people were talking about, shorting Bitcoin. We have a halving event, which is usually pretty good for Bitcoin, right? And then we're also seeing triple divergence. Okay, you have triple divergence on the MACD here, and you have a multiple point divergence on the RSI. So you do have triple divergence on a 2-hour, which is kind of comparable to my 30-minute in a regular, daytime stock during the day there. So if this actually turns up, I'd be looking at my 4-hour. Is the 4-hour able to curl up and go positive at that point? You see 4-hour divergences are there as well. Kind of tells me that Bitcoin might see an upward move. If it sees that upward move, how high could it go? Well, we actually were pointing out on the daily how this could be some kind of big flag, right? This could be some kind of big flag. And if we start to head up, this actually could measure out and we could go as high as, I think it's like 85 to 80K. So just pay attention. You need this stuff to curl up to see that. And we need some kind of, what if a strong move happens, creates a divergence right when everyone's at peak excitement, that thing gets ripped away. People hit the sell button after the event, right? Buy the rumor, sell the fact afterwards, buy the news, sell the fact. That actually could be happening here, but I just wanted to show you those 2-hour divergences on Bitcoin since someone asked about it. So the main takeaway here is we're coming into a day, which I would believe is tomorrow, where we either have to bounce to save the stock market, or we very well might start crashing down as we break through a lot of weekly expected moves. That's when the craziness happens. That's when the selling can really flush. So be very cautious, but we know on this channel, we're trading like water. And so we will be just fine as long as we flip back and forth. Like you guys saw me doing this morning. I sold all of my positions this morning, repositioned them in different ways, and I was able to make a good amount of money today. So that is awesome. But I hope you guys are making money too. That's why the course is down below. If you guys want to learn about some of this stuff, Patreon's there if you need some weekly ranges to help you out with profit taking and finding those trade setups, getting more reasons to take those trades. But overall, I just want to say thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for liking, subscribing. You guys are always fantastic. You guys are fun to interact with. I really appreciate it, and I enjoy those live videos every single morning. So I just hope you guys have all the luck in the world trading tomorrow. Be very cautious going through the rest of the week while we decide whether or not we are going to crash or build back up. And have a good night. Peace.